We started in '82 to raise money. Neither one of us had any money, and our damn parents didn't have any money either.
You know, it was a brewery that they had to do on a real shoestring. They wanted to raise $100,000. They could only raise about 60.
We went to every bank in Portland, and they all said, "Hey, that sounds like a lot of fun, but what's your experience? None. What's your collateral? None." And they said, "Good luck, boys."
He signed our first lease. That was a pretty courageous thing to do.
Personally committed to $1,000 a month for 3 years, and I had no money, so it was a challenge. I mean, you have to be optimistic. You don't get into business thinking you're going to fail.
My first recollection of meeting them was at what we now call Tavern and Pool in 1984. There were 4 groups of us that wanted to brew beer and sell beer on our premise. And the Widmer Brothers, McMiniman Brothers, Dick Ponzi did Bridgeport, and Fred Bowman and I did Portland Brewing along with Jim Goodwin.
Those were the founding breweries. All those breweries, like the brothers, were very invested, engaged in making the beer scene work here.
They were driving their beer around in the little maroon Datsun pickup and showing that this was a real grassroots, family-type business.
Retailers, you know, when we would go in and talk to them about buying our alt beer, it was like we were from the moon or something. I mean, retailers frequently thought it was illegal, and then next they thought the beer would make them sick. I mean, they couldn't conceive that, you know, 2 young guys were brewing and selling beer in Portland, so.
If anybody puts out bad beer, in the early days it could reflect badly on all of us.
You know, it's really difficult to overstate how important, especially Hefeweizen was.
When we started doing the Weizen, we started feeling better about our survival.
I remember Steve Turnston was the manager of the Produce Row back then, and that was a big, you know, Horse Brass was always a good account, but Produce Row was really cranking at the time. And I poured Steve a glass, and he drank almost the whole pint, and he said, "I am going to sell the shit out of this," and he did.
Oh yeah, I definitely did. First beer that you couldn't see through. So yeah, we were all trying to filter our beers and clarify them, and here they were out selling the beer you couldn't see through.
Not to name any breweries, but there is on the East Coast, say, a phenomenon on cloudy SF. They created that like a couple years ago.
It became the first calling card, the first really big calling card. And I think in some ways, the early adoption by Oregonians for craft beer was led by that beer. Rob and Kurt had an unusual experience in beer in that their beer was so popular so fast that they went from the kind of startup phase to being really big successes in less than a decade. And as late as like 1995, they were still, it was still all draft, and they made 68,000 barrels of beer that was sold entirely on draft.
We were the largest draft-only brewery in the world.
Portland was becoming Beervana, and it was really led by that beer.
Nothing better than a Hefeweizen with a lemon.
Kurt is the older brother, and he was the one who made decisions about the direction of the brewery. And Rob is much more focused on the beer itself.
I mean, every brewer in town, I'm sure, started as a home brewer, right? Or at least 99% of us. And those guys are really into it, man.
I was a home brewer for 5 years before we even thought about doing it commercially.
I started brewing when I was a ski bum in Montana. There was a guy that made beer and invited me to brew with him one day, and the rest is history.
Rob continues to do home brews of Widmer Hefeweizen.
This is a lot about how much he cares, you know?
We've shoulder to shoulder for 35 years, and we've ended up, you know, here at this facility. When we moved here in '90, we shared a small office, and our desks were head to head.
Everybody found that incredibly bizarre, that 2 brothers could work that closely together and not come to loggerheads.
I can't imagine having a better partner. And there were times when we were working 7 days a week, 16, 17, 18-hour days, and it didn't even occur to me that he wouldn't show up the next day.
You know, I always knew Kurt had my back, I had his, and then I can't imagine doing it any other way. You know, your family's always got your back, you can count on them 100%, and there were times where you really needed that.
I think beers like the Hef and the Alt and just like really straightforward, solid beers, yeah, I mean, eventually they'll speak to you as a brewer, and yeah, who's better to look up to than that?
When you look at the kind of collegiality that exists here in Portland between the brewers, one real emblem of that is the way the Widmers would run labs for other people. Their thinking being, if Portland can make good beer, it's good for us all.
There was always a community of brewers and helping each other out almost from day one.
The brothers were always like, you know, do it right, always. Drive for quality and making sure it's done right the first time. And if you have to do it over, then that's what we're going to do.
I think we helped establish beer in Oregon. I think Oregon has cachet all around the world now, and we were right here at that moment. And
I don't even know how to put it in words, but I think they'll never be forgotten. And that's like the real definition of a legacy right there.
And the impact, again, I don't know how to weight that.
We still get people saying, your Hefeweizen was the first beer that I had, and thanks for doing that. That was really a terrific entree into the world of craft.